Hi, this is Steve Cochran, and boy, am I glad you decided to listen to Live from My Office. Why? Well, because we put a lot of effort into this podcast, and if you weren't listening, you wouldn't be hearing it, and therefore all the effort would be going to waste. And wouldn't that be sad? Okay, I'm glad we could agree. You can hear this podcast where you're listening now and everywhere podcasts show up. I mean everywhere. And when you do, I hope you'll subscribe, rate, review, and tell a few hundred friends. It's appreciated. Don't forget the email. It is The Steve Cochran Show, but the email itself wouldn't be that, would it, Steve? No, it's The Cochran Show, thecochranshow@gmail.com. Go ahead, write something funny. You might end up on the show, or ask a question, or anything else you want to do to get in contact with me, thecochranshow@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out the show notes at the site you're listening now, because that's got social media contacts and stuff you need to know and listen for. All of this, of course, is brought to you by Team Hochberg. And the great David Hochberg, he just wants to save you a little money. Team Hochberg ready to do that for you, and you need to pick up the phone and make the call or check out the website. It's 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. All right, on today's show, we salute one of the greatest of all time. It's rare when you get an opportunity to talk to the best there ever was or ever will be in the chosen field that they pursued. But that's Doc Emrick. Doc Emrick is as good a guy as you've heard. Doc Emrick, even if you don't know hockey, you'll want to know Doc. And after the break, we'll come back and I'll catch up with my friend Doc Emrick. Also, I got a great charity coming up as well that we'll mention. Classic that needs your help and support. And of course, don't forget to let me know about charities you hope will give some free publicity to here as well. Again, this is Live from My Office. I'm Steve Cochran. I'm glad you're here. And we're back with Doc Emrick right after this. If you're interested in refinancing your existing home or to lower your interest rate, pay off debt, shorten the term of your loan, or renovate your home, do what I did when I wanted to refi a home equity loan, when my sister wanted to finance her home, when my daughter wanted to finance her home. Look, we all call Team Hochberg. Too many of us put it off. They go, this Hochberg guy, man, I'm hearing a lot of things. Steve's always telling me he's a good guy. Look, he's loud. He's direct. But all he wants to do is save you money. And I highly recommend you pick up the phone or get online immediately and check it out as well. With any money situation related to your home, Team Hochberg can, in all likelihood, help. Team Hochberg is truly a team, by the way. Everything related to your house. He's got a guy. So what are you waiting for? Your procrastination isn't going to help you with your debt issue. Your debt isn't going to magically disappear. And the consultation's absolutely free. Call Team Hochberg. Do it now and see if they can lower your rate or pay off debt to reduce your monthly payment or help you with your credit rating or help you with a student loan. Look, it's all there for Team Hochberg. They've helped me and thousands of listeners secure low rates and reduce their monthly payments, but they can't help if you don't call 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843, 855-563-2843. or 56david.com. Homeside Financial and Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 1124061. When Doc Emrick decided to retire, he put together an essay, one of many he'll do going forward, by the way, courtesy of NBC Sports. And Doc did a wonderful job of writing and talking about the game he loved, and that game is hockey.
I don't know about you, but I still get chills seeing the Stanley Cup. And knowing how professionals paid well during the season, forget everything, and raise pain thresholds above broken jaws, black eyes, stitches, and a lot we can't see to win a title and get the name their parents gave them engraved on this trophy. I especially love when the horn sounds and one playoff team has won and another, of course, hasn't. All hostility dissolves into that timeless, great display of sportsmanship, the handshake line.
Welcome back to Live from My Office. It is an honor to welcome my friend. You know, it's not, and I know he's my friend, but it's so Do you know how many thousands of people, especially over the last 6 months, have described Doc Emrick as their friend? And I guess that's where I'd want to start, Doc. It's such a compliment to you as a person that so many people consider you a friend because you take such interest in people, no matter who you're talking to. I hope you take pride in that.
Oh, it's nice to hear your voice, to be referred to as your friend, and to think about times that I wandered in off of Michigan Avenue with a bunch of archaic candy bars, not stale ones, but archaic names like Charlestown Chew and Zagnut and Mallow Cup and all of those, and dumped them on the table, and you picked up I think a Charlestown Chew. Charleston Chew or something like that.
Yeah,
but anyway, those were good times, and they're all a part of building a friendship that sustains today. And tell me about Abigail Grace.
Well, Abigail Grace and her little brother Isaac are fantastic, and Abigail still refers to you as, when will I see Uncle Doc again? So she loves you.
I'm flattered.
She loves you, but we're so blessed, and everybody's healthy, and I hope it's the same with your end, with your beautiful wife Joyce. And all good.
Yeah, all good. We've had the 2 shots. Mine were for rabies and distemper, and I got a treat and jumped into the back of the car and wagged my tail. So everything's great.
Well, update me on the doggies. Is it Liberty and Molly?
Yeah, we did say goodbye to Liberty, sadly, just before Christmas. She was 12, and she had a brain cancer. But we realized that we got about an extra year and a half of good health from her because we had a wonderful vet. And those are sad times,
sure.
Very difficult. But we have a new little puppy that is a poodle. Joyce had a poodle at one time and wanted to have another poodle pup. So she's curled up right next to me right now.
Well,
as we're
that.
talking to, she looks up at me and says, "How's Uncle Steve?" And I said, "Okay, I'll tell him." I said,
yeah.
Well, she waved her little paw. But anyway, the dogs are all doing wonderfully now, and the horses are fine, and we're enjoying retirement, even though it's a busy time because the season is on, and when the season involves still the hobby of me watching games rather than the job of me watching games.
Yeah, and I've got to say that, and you know how much I love hockey. And I consider myself to be, maybe a little more than a fan. I spend time understanding the game, or trying to, and paying attention to it. But it's not the same. And I know you reject that notion that the game is bigger than all of us and we all come and go. But you know what a fan I am of great play-by-play announcers. I've had this conversation off the air, I think. But I was thinking about this before I called you this morning. I loved what Jack Buck did. I loved what Vin Scully did. But you and I grew up in an era where it was the absolute golden age of baseball play-by-play guys. And I think I know, as a pirate nut, as you've always been, who your favorite might be. But who was your favorite from growing up as a baseball fan?
There were actually 2. One was Bob Prince, who made me a Pirate fan in 1959, and the other was a guy who sadly was taken out by a car accident, but he was on WGN when I was growing up in Indiana and listening to the Cubs during the day because they played day games. His name was Jack Quinlan.
Sure. And
he was thrilling to listen to, even though the Cubs were battling the Pirates for the basement every year in the National League. He was exciting to listen to, and he worked with Lou Boudreau during those years in Chicago. So they were my 2 favorites. I listened to the guys in other cities, but in the 1950s and early 60s, Jack was marvelous.
And in football, I always tip my cap, because I'm a bald guy, so I wear one, to Al Michaels. I think Al Michaels has spanned a generation or more now of being just a great football play-by-play man. And in basketball, it's tougher for me, but Jim Nantz, I think, does a wonderful job on the NCAAs. And he's certainly been around a long time. And Marv Albert, had a special signature. But this all comes back to you, my friend, because you put such a mark on hockey with your love for the game and your ability to take, I guess, the poetic prose of Vin Scully and put it into the speed of the National Hockey League. Have you taken any time since you announced your retirement to reflect and go, you know what, I was pretty good?
No. I guess what happened was, the day after I announced my retirement, the book came out, and I wound up on a lot of programs like yours
Sure.
back then, and now again, reflecting on the entire career or upon what was written in the book, co-written by Kevin Allen and all. And no, I really marveled at the quality of the product that I got to broadcast because of the skill of the players. And we had a different game in the 1970s and 80s in that it was a combination of high scoring and brawn.
Mm-hmm.
And bench clearers were allowed until 1988. And fighting took place on a regular basis. Now it's a far different game. The players are an average of 6'1" or almost 6'2" and 200 pounds, much bigger. And the fights don't occur as much because the players are protected by face masks and all, but they still do occur once in a while. But it's comparable, I think, to when I was in high school years ago. I went to the Indianapolis 500 on the last day of time trials, and the speed that was necessary to make position number 33 that day was in the high 140s. Now it's in the 200s. And
right.
It's the same 2.5 mile oval that it was way back then. And our rink is 200 by 85, and the players are so much bigger, stronger, faster. It's a collision sport, and it's still exciting and thrilling to me. And the skill of the players and the great games that we have are just as exciting to me today as they were 40 years ago, when sometimes the games would stop for fights.
Did you have to, in any way, shape, or form, relearn your rhythms as the game got faster, or because you were doing it all the time, it was just a gradual change?
It was a gradual change. That's a good point that you make. And the one thing that I noticed more from 7 years in the minors going to the NHL was there were fewer mistakes. In the minors, you would relax a little bit if a player had the puck behind his own net and lines were changing. And then you would get caught because he would step out in front of his own net, lose the puck, and it would be in the net. That didn't happen much in the NHL. There weren't too many surprises that you got. If a guy was going to make a pass in his own end, circle to circle, he was probably going to complete it, and it wasn't going to be stolen. In the minors, sometimes it happened.
All the players you've seen through these years, and by the way, I don't want to belabor the statistics because we'd have to turn this into a mini-series, but 47 years, 3,700 plus games, 22 Cup Finals, 6 Olympics, 19 Winter Classic Stadium Series games, awards beyond awards, 7 straight Emmys from 2014 to 2020. Everybody knows the greats of the game. And, we could talk about whether anybody even came close to Gretzky. But you know what I'd love to hear from you? And I don't think I've ever asked you this question. Who is the one you think about that could have been, and whether it was an injury or a personal matter, or he just didn't adapt, somebody that kind of sticks in your mind as a player we wouldn't know, but boy, could he have been something?
Well, I'll quote Gordie Howe. There was a player that only people older than you and myself would have seen play. Gordie was asked who the greatest player was that he ever played with. And considering that he started just after World War II, played in the NHL to 1971, and then had a second career that ended in 1980, you would be shocked. That's a long career. A player by the name of Guile Fielder, who played in the Western Hockey League, had a little bit of time in the show, but not much. And he said he was the most skilled player I played with. Well, consider the number of guys that Gordie Howe played with, including Lindsay and Abel in the production line in Detroit. Sure. So there's an obscure name that probably should have had more attention over the course of time. But I think a lot of times about how many big numbers that Mario Lemieux could have put up
Sure.
had he not had cancer, had he not had severe back problems that prevented him from being bending over and tying his skates sometimes. That's one of those speculative things. How close would he have come to Wayne Gretzky's numbers if he would have had his health? But those are debates that we can always have about players back through time. I count myself as very fortunate to have been in Chicago for 3 championships and to have seen Duncan Keith the last year when he won the MVP play 48% of the time that his team was on the ice, including some double and multiple overtime games. He was on the ice 48% of the time, and they won the championship. How does a guy do that?
Well, and speaking of Chicago, I think about, to me, one of the great mysteries of sports. How many times have you seen, and have I seen, the legendary father and the son comes along, and it's impossible to live up to the father's name because he's one of the all-time greats. What Brett Hull accomplished, especially considering the fractured relationship he had with his father for so many years, but what he accomplished as a player, and he certainly had his own personal demons as well, but it really amazed me because that's not something you see very often, right?
No, and you can actually carry it further into the executive boardroom, and Rockwell Words takes over the team shortly after his father, God rest his soul, passes away, and immediately puts the team on television, doesn't stand around waiting for a half of a year, and all of a sudden the team becomes more visible, and these, the championships start to follow, and all of those great moments in Blackhawks history that were in the past become in the present again. And who knows how long it'll take. This has been a team this year that has outdone my expectations. I thought they would be dead last in their division, but they are still competing for a playoff berth here past the halfway mark of the season. I didn't think they would, but the Cat has already reached the number of goals that he scored last year in less than half the games. And when you are Patrick Kane and you are number 3 in league scoring and you're behind Draisaitl and McDavid, you're having a wonderful year. So it's been exciting for Chicago this year too, and I didn't think it would be.
You've spoken many times, again, on and off the air. We've talked about this, about being blessed with great partners. And while I don't doubt that, I thought what was really cool and not surprising at all were the people that came out to talk about what you meant to them and what you meant to the game. And one of them is our friend Eddie Olczyk. Give me just 30 seconds or so on what it was like working with Eddie for 15 years, I think.
Yeah, it was fun going to work every day because it was hockey and because I was getting to do what I always wanted to do. But it was fun to the second power because who I got to do it with. We always laughed a lot. And there's a picture that I still carry around in my book that I had my lineups in that was taken in Washington. And there were about 16 quick shots taken by one of our assistants on my cell phone. And we're practically double over laughing in each one of them. And they were not taken that quickly. But we were just great friends and remain that today. And coming up will be the start of a baseball season, and my Pirates will probably lose all 3 games on the opening weekend to the Cubs. And we will probably have a side bet because Eddie, with all of his great qualities, did turn me into a bit of a gambler when it comes to not horses, but 50-50 draws and occasionally on baseball.
Yes, Edward does enjoy a wager. Now, I always like to take an opportunity when I get a chance to talk to someone like you, though there's no one really like you, because I know how much kids mean to you. And there's kids who are coming up who love the idea of sports and they want to get into the booth and they want to call a game, or maybe they want to be, a studio host of some kind. But the fun you just talked about is really crucial. But I think kids need to understand how much work is involved. And it didn't amaze me, I guess, but it always pleased me to see the amount of work you put in on game day. Because this is much more than just going to work for 2 hours a night, right?
Yeah, it's about 8 hours. Usually it was about 3 or 4 hours the night before. And that was doing all the rudimentary stuff of jotting things down on my card and entering statistics because I was lucky. Usually for NBC games, neither team played the day before. So their statistics were frozen and you could enter them the night before and take the time to do it. And then at the morning skates, which were really the fun part for me, in addition to the game, they would practice the home team at 10:30, the visitors at 11:30, and you get to talk to 3 or 4 players. Pre-pandemic, you could go sit next to them in the dressing room at their dressing stall and chat with them for a little bit and learn something interesting about them that you could share with the audience that wasn't in the press notes. And then you get to talk to the coaches. Guys like Coach Q was always, you talk about somebody that was a horse player. I mean, he still is.
Oh yeah.
But those were joyful times, but it was work, but it didn't seem like work. And you're absolutely right. I think as much as I encourage people to get into this line of work, one thing that probably takes some people out of contention is that it requires so much of a commitment to be ready for each game. And not everybody wants to make that kind of a commitment. They want to do something else after a while. But it is I found to be one of the more joyful things. Not everybody wants to be a morning man.
No, including me.
You were that for a lot of years. And you had to get up before most people were getting in from the nightclubs. Mm-hmm. You were getting up to go in and entertain us all in the morning, and I thank God that you did. But the other side of it is it's not the easiest duty to pull, and not everybody wants to do it.
No, it's a little more than talk, and I appreciate those words from you certainly as well. Listen, people know about your love for language, I think, and it's one of the great joys of listening to you call games for all those years. But I don't know how many people realize you actually taught, right? Didn't you teach speech at one point?
Yeah, at a place called Geneva College. They're probably trying to forget that back there, but I did indeed. And it was the old-fashioned public speaking, similar to the Dale Carnegie course, where you stand up in front of your class and speak for 3 or 4 minutes every session. And it was amazing to me, whether it was kids or whether it was the night school class that were adults that worked during the days, that how good they got at doing that by the time the semester was over. And all it is doing it over and over again. All it is practice. And anyone can be a good public speaker by just practicing and by doing it over and over again. And that was one of the things that always made it fulfilling for me to be a teacher of speech, was to watch how kids or how adults would blossom from the beginning of one 18-week semester to the end.
You know, the thing about the love of speech leads us directly into the 157 verbs. I think I have that right. But somebody who either worked at PBS or was affiliated with PBS counted the number of different verbs you use to move the puck in describing the puck's movement in one game. And I just grabbed a couple of these here, and I want to see if I have these right. You tell me. Lugged. Lugged is when you are checked against the boards 3 times, but you still manage to control the puck and you bring it the length of the ice. Yes or no?
Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, lugged is not really fast. It's just, it's you get there.
All right, squibbed or skeetered. To me, that's a poke check that looks like a rugby scrum, but somehow you clear with the puck.
Yeah, skittered is like a water bug. It just the puck sort of slides down the ice and it hops and it bounces and it does all kinds of weird things.
And what about shuffleboarding?
That was a one-arm thing like elderly people do, maybe down in Florida. Yeah, I don't know, but it's a one-arm thing that Duncan Keith was very good at, and so was Nick Lidstrom in Detroit. You reach out and you poke the puck away along the boards. You reach out like you would a shuffleboard move, and you pump it away.
I want to, in the last couple of minutes, you're going to plug in for the book, but are you doing the podcast as well, or is that on hold for now?
No podcast for me. I wouldn't know how to even start one, unlike yourself. I don't know. I just, that's beyond me.
Well, you're a great guest, so you don't need to do your own. And the book, tell people about the book. What's it called?
It's called Off Mike, How a Kid from Basketball-Crazed Indiana Became America's Hockey Voice. And it's autobiographical, but because I never really perceived my life as that exciting. I tried to weave in a lot of stories from both the NHL and also the minor leagues that I came through into it to hopefully make people laugh some. And it's 100% of the author proceeds go to the hands-on care of animals, which is very special for Joyce and me.
And please give my best to Joyce and give her a hug and tell her I thank you for letting you come out and play on Live from my office.
But it's always fun to be with you, young man. But Charlestown Chews are coming.
But before we go in this final moment, Frank DeFord described you in a PBS commentary piece. I think it was back around 2014. He equated you with, as far as people loving you, with Betty White, the Duchess of Cambridge, and the Pope. Are you living up to the Betty White part of that comparison?
No, I'm not sure if I could be tackled and get back up out of the mud.
What a life. My friend, I wish you nothing but good health. I hope we see each other this summer in Michigan or Illinois or somewhere in between.
I do too.
All the best.
All the best.
Thank you, buddy. If you or a family member is interested in securing a reverse mortgage loan, listen to this invaluable information from Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Experienced homeowners, at least 62 years old, secured 44,666 reverse mortgages in 2020, totaling a record $10.6 billion. See, 2020 was bad, but not everything was bad. Because these financially astute homeowners are taking advantage of the many benefits from reverse mortgages. That's something you can ask David Hochberg about today. Those reverse mortgage benefits include increasing monthly cash flow. All the proceeds from reverse mortgage loans are tax-free. Extending the life of retirement funds. Making home modifications so it's safer and easier to live the best years of your life. And afford in-home medical and housekeeping pros to assist you with everything you need to do as life becomes more challenging. Enjoy your golden years without the fear of running out of money. If you'd like more information about reverse mortgage loans from local reverse mortgage loan experts, do what we have done, my family, my friends, my listeners. We call Team Hochberg, 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com, and tune in to Home Sweet Home Chicago. Hosted by David Hochberg. It's Saturday mornings at 10 on 720 WGN. Homeside Financial is an equal housing lender. NMLS number 1124061. By the way, if you think I was kidding about the Betty White thing, here's the great Frank DeFord talking about Doc Emrick on NPR.
In that rare category of celebrities that include the likes of Betty White, the Duchess of Cambridge, Tony Bennett, or Pope Francis, who simply are adored above rebuke.
We continue on Live from my office. Remember, I always mention a charity worthy of your consideration, your contributions in time and money. You know, we all have heard of Make-A-Wish, and we may have some preconceived notions of what Make-A-Wish does. Of course, Make-A-Wish known for taking care of wishes of critically ill children. And it's a wonderful thing to do, but for every wish they grant, there's 3 kids waiting to have their wishes met as well. And you might think, well, look, we just got through this pandemic. I don't have the money, Steve. Volunteer. Think about your own network of folks who could help in putting together ideas that could meet one of the wishes. You go to the website, wish.org. There's lots of information there. You can even donate your airline miles if you like. Adopt a wish or establish a charitable giving plan where you combine people in your network to give as one. So I hope you will. It's a wonderful organization. Make-A-Wish. Again, go to their website anytime at wish.org, W-I-S-H, wish.org. And I thank you for listening to another episode of Live from My Office. The great Richard Roper will join me next time we do this. Thanks to Ross Cochran for putting it together and getting it up and on always. Don't forget to take a look at those show notes, and I'll see you next time on Live from My Office.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Support the show by subscribing wherever you're listening and by telling your friends about it. Follow Steve on all social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And make sure you check out this episode's show notes for relevant information discussed during the conversations. You can also email the show directly at thecochranshow@gmail.com with any questions or comments, and that's the best place to tell us about your favorite nonprofit so we can make sure we mention them on the next episode. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.